Welcome to Your Time to Soar, the Wisdom from Pearls with Lois Leonard and Dr. Pat. What are the pearls? Have you ever heard from your parents or grandparents basic information like God never gives you more than you can handle, or this too shall pass? These pearls are some of the tools that will help dreams come to life. Your Time to Soar with the Wisdom and Pearls is a show that reminds or introduces us to the sayings from mentors that provide us wisdom when going to achieve our dreams. These gems provide a return to basics to simplify your life. If you're looking for a change in your life, stay tuned with us. Your Time to Soar starts now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Pat. I get to take this journey with the most incredible Lois Leonard. This topic today is so critical and so obviously evident in my life at the moment. The episode is, for those of you out there, God never gives you more than you can handle. And there are many shades of this, Lois, and thank you so much for today. You know, people are going to get to know you, but I want them to know that you are somebody in the world that is on a pathway, to not just experience joy, but to help others do that. You're a life mastery consultant, you're an accomplished author, you're a speaker, devoted mom, grandma, the whole thing. And you're saying yes to this show, right? That enables you to share a message. Beyond all of that, your career spans, whether it's banking, into retail, education. You have done all these things, but the one thing that literally overarches all of them is your belief. And we're going to talk about that today because it's the same as mine. I did grow up with a mama. You and I talked about this. I did grow up with Mama Doris, who used to say, girl, God is that she was from the South. Girl, God is just not going to give you anything that you can't handle. And I never left that. Let's talk about what that has come to mean, but also how you've experienced that in your life, what this message is all about.
This message came to me from my grandparents when I was very small. They are basically the wisdom behind the pearls. I used to, sort of like a lot of people, if you watch TV, life sort of wraps itself up in a little bow within an hour. And that's not quite how life works. And it isn't perfect, and it isn't clean, and it gets messy, gets really complicated at times. And yet that's the part where we get to grow. We get to become more of us, get to learn more about ourselves. And that showed up in my life multiple times, where I have literally said to my grandmother, I think he's got me confused with everybody else, but I'm not that person. And she would, in the one line, she would come back to me and say, no, honey, I think you have yourself confused with someone else. Which was, I'd go, I do? She says to me that you've got more in you. You're just not tapping into it. You're sort of tapping out and going, I'm done. And I would say one of the biggest moments in my life where I really thought, I can't do this. Like, take me off. I'm done. Find anybody else, was when my brother passed. And it was the same year that my daughter was born. And my daughter is one of the biggest blessings in my life. She has taught me so much. I love her dearly. So when he died, and he was my best friend, he was my mentor, confidant, it was like my whole world was wiped out. And I thought, how do I get one gift and then I lose one? For a long time, I realized that there was good in it. I didn't like it. I wanted him there. But at the same time, he taught me so much. And without that, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Same with my grandparents. Most of the kids in the family basically learned, you can handle what you're given because you won't be given more.
You know what I love about that is that what it does is it doesn't just speak to faith. It reinforces trust. And see, that's the lesson that I've learned as well. But there's nothing more painful than losing someone you love so dearly, right? And we've done that. You and I have talked about this a lot. You know, myself, my mom, and then my stepmom, you know, Mama Doris, and then all my sisters. And yet we pick ourselves up somehow. What do you think we're made of to do that? What gets us to rise up? What gets us to pick ourselves up? What gets us to get back to soaring again?
I think for many people, and I can speak for myself for sure, the people that have passed in my life that I have loved and I wish were here every day of my life, I don't think they want me to be sad. I don't think they want me to continue mourning. They want me to remember what they've taught. They want me to remember that I get to teach. I have something to give. And that's everybody on the planet has something to give. And I don't honestly believe my family in any way would want me to say, well, no, I got to stay here. There's that piece in you that just rides up and says, I've got the strength to do this. I've got the ability to carry on and to be a better person every day.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this related to that, because we do have that. You know, we do have that. Let's talk about some of the things that will pop up in life, you know, for us. I was talking to Linda the other day, and we both have a saying, but she does it much better than me. She says it much better. She's got that New Jersey accent, so she says it much better. And what she says is, you know what? Because both of us believe now in our lives in a benevolent God, a benevolent life force energy, God, spirit, whatever you call it. For me, in my program, it's a God of my understanding, whatever that is. And Linda will say, God would not bring us this far to fail. And you hear it over and over again. I've known her a long time, but that's part of the same message, isn't it? However, it's to your point, when we feel overwhelmed and we have a little bit of resentment and we're ready to throw in the towel. I mean, you know, we need a Rocky song.
So true. Absolutely so true. I can think of so many songs that in this moment that people may use or listen to. And I find that I have, like, for me, I don't always use the term God. I use spirit,
Yes, spirit.
whatever word really resonates with you. I know people have a little bit of, I'll say, resistance to the word God. I find that spirit whelms up in me and says, you know, we're in it together. I
Yeah.
don't believe that God, as you said, has brought us this far. I don't think that, you know, God said, it's like, you know, the little magnifying glass with the ant. Let's just, no, I don't. I think he wants good for us, but I also think he wants us to find it. It's not a gift that you're going to get and take for granted. It's something that you work on. It's something that you develop. It's, you know, it's practice. It's a continual practice. I think every time that I wish for patience, I get every red light. I get the lineup in, you know, the grocery store that's probably the longest. And it doesn't matter which one I move to, I'm still going to be there when everybody else has left. And I think I asked for patience. I didn't ask for a lineup. And it comes out that it's, well, you can handle this. It's growing your patience. And I've had people tell me, I don't get how you're so patient. I think, I've had a little practice, you know? So I believe that spirit is always with us as long as we're willing to allow it in.
Yeah, I love that you brought that. You know, I reference the God of my understanding. That is a phrase from the Recovery Big Books, the God of my understanding. And then we all get to use the acronym God. And so I work with somebody that said, well, you want that to mean, Pat, you got such an issue around it. And without spending a lot of time today. Almost everybody that goes into recovery that first year has got an issue with God, just the way it is. And one of the first things in that program is turn your power over. But here's what I love about it. You get to create the life force energy, and then you get to test it. Every day you get to test it. You get to test, oh, that good is showing up. You know, Lois, this is you, your coaching practice. This is what you do. You see, this is so important to have a benevolence that infuses our lives. And what do I mean by that? Let's just talk about it. You know, what am I talking about? Talking about a life force energy that you think is got your back, that you think it represents the word good. That's what we're talking about. But you know, words in our language just get us all caught up, don't they? Right?
Yes.
We're just talking about a catalyst for change. And what you did is describe the events that are catalysts for change, and they're not always good things, right? I I had a rant the other day, and I want you to pick up on this and explain it. Because every day is an opportunity. And I would love for you to talk about this. I know this is how you live your life. This is what you do at work. This is what you do in your coaching practice, right? Every day is an opportunity. Kelly Clarkson, but I think it was Nietzsche who said it first. What don't kill you make you stronger. But there's a deep meaning in that. Let's talk about what don't kill you shows you an opportunity too, doesn't it?
I have found in my life that if I don't seize the opportunity to learn, it will come back repetitively. And so for me, when the opportunity arises most times, and this morning I had a great learning choice, which I have definitely taken up. And, you know, being the person that you're here to be, not to try and trod on somebody else's life or tell them how to do stuff. It's basically to support. And when they ask for, that help, that you give it. And I found that there have been so many opportunities to choose. And that's what it is. We get a choice every day. I have a sign in my office that says, "Today I choose happiness." And yeah, there's some days that I have to turn and look at the sign and remind myself, this is what I'm choosing today, regardless of what shows up. And that's not always easy, because there are days where you may get some letter in the mail, you may get something that just sets you off, and you kind of go, and yet she's telling me I can choose happiness? What if it's an event that appears in your life to teach you that lesson, to make you that person, to be that thing that you want to do in your life?
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you were that person right now, you'd be doing that thing, but you're not. And this is why God continues to give you things that allow you to grow and not completely crush you and say, I'm out, I'm done, I tap out. So
And I love that. And what I like, can we do the Rocky for a minute, the Rocky movie for a minute, Balboa? I'm sorry.
sure.
I grew up with my uncles teaching me how to box. What I love about that series, and this is what I think people love, is one, obstacles will show up. They did for him. Two, he had to learn to reach even farther than he had ever reached before. It didn't matter which version of Rocky, it was always a bigger thing that he had to achieve. And I think that's what we are called to do. I do not think we were called to play small. And yet I think sometimes it's hard for us to imagine. I was sitting there yesterday and I just looking at a lot of things that, I'm planning the business. And boy, when you plan a business, there are going to be days when things go well and days they don't. I mean, even in your job. And I'm thinking, I'm going to hold on to flourish. We have one of our hosts talks about the flourish frequency. And the next thing I know, my doorbell rings and my buddy is at the door, Doug, and he says, I got salmon for you. I've been praying for some salmon. And so I get this case of salmon. Now, let me explain the difference between going to the grocery store and getting salmon from Doug. Alaska salmon, caught naturally, put on a ship, frozen on the ship, filleted on the ship, and brought to your door. And I just cried. That's what we're talking about. When we can hold the space. That may not be the answer I was looking for that day as I'm looking at technology, but it was an answer, wasn't it, Lois?
It was definitely an answer. It's amazing how sometimes out of the blue things show up. And I'm a person, most people who know me, and they'll say, oh, it's a coincidence. And I'm going, yeah, no, sorry. Not a word that I embrace, embody at all. Everything comes either by thought or by feeling or whatever you're looking at and intending. And I have found that it does amaze me when I hear stories and it's like, well, I was talking about this, and you're not going to believe, out of the blue, this came. And I'm very, very happy to hear those stories.
Yeah.
And it's other ones where you hear, I was asking for this, similar to my asking for patience. And yeah, guess what? That showed up. So, I mean, for today, this being my first podcast ever, I will definitely say I kept using the phrase, God is not giving you more than you can handle. You can
Yeah.
do this. And I can tell you, my nerves have been off the chart. And only right before the show, it was like, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. And I can tell you, I don't feel the need to say, the need changes from God gives, okay, keep repeating it. God never gives you more than you can handle, to God gave me exactly what I needed
Yeah.
in order to handle what I'm doing
And
and moving
it's funny
forward.
because you and I talked about this, and I knew you were nervous. But one thing you should know about me, I would never put anybody on. That's why I spend time with people. People always ask me, Lois, what the heck you doing, Pat? And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you doing? You're like the owner of the company. Why are you spending time with people? And I'm like, why wouldn't I? I am no different than them. I am a host that has a passion and a purpose and wants to have a voice in the world. That's what I wanted to help you with. And all you really needed to do was show up today brilliantly, and you are. And see, that's what I love about this. Now, I don't know if you know it, but behind you, right? Your show, let's just get back to what your show is called. It's called Your Time to Soar. And this is not only what you do in your day, but this is what you do in your life. So let's take a moment to tell people, one, this is coaching that you do to help them. What is the best way for them to contact you? And I don't know if you noticed this, but like you have an O that must stand for opportunity.
Well,
How,
I didn't actually think about that, but I'm going to embrace that one,
oh,
because the lovely being creature behind me is what I absolutely adore watching, is
mm,
watching the osprey,
mm,
watching, the blue herons fly and the eagles.
yeah,
It's like freedom. And so many people that I have met, um, they struggle with knowing that they have a light, and
mm,
that they, excuse me, and that they were meant to soar. Ground yourself and then take off,
yeah,
because there's so much more deeper inside you, and there, you have so much more. And those days that do feel dark or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
there's going to be support. So, I mean, if any of this resonates with anyone, the best way to
Mm,
get a hold of me is to visit my website. You can learn more about me and what I actually provide. It is Time to Soar Coaching at .ca. Pardon me,
yeah,
forgetting my own website here. And yeah, you could schedule a discovery session, and we could have
mm,
a chat to see how I could assist you in making you soar, because it gives me so much happiness.
Because you walk in the talk. I mean, people don't know what it took for you to get here to do this show today. And the things that you talk about, let me go through them. Patience, you've already mentioned. I want to mention moving to flow. That is the key. That is the key. And I'm sure we'll do a whole show on that. Okay, then what does that mean? You know, how do you move to flow? Have you ever seen anybody move in that majestic stepping? I have a couple of people that, oh, I'm going to get this wrong. They do martial arts. Let me just say martial arts. And I watch them. And it's like, did you even put your foot down? We're going to talk about that, right? But look, you and I went through the same thing. Technology glitches. And you know what I learned about them? This is a network that so much of this I built from the bones and had help from Jessica and others. But so much of this is a part of me. And this is not the thing you give other people to test. And some days when you're in front of technology, you really patience, flow, empathy, ego. Which one do you want to pull from in order to show how you show up, Lois?
Well, I can honestly say technology has always been interesting. I'm going to use the interesting to me because of the times where, especially with a printer, where it's like work. Okay, I sent the job here. It should be here. And then it's like, no, it doesn't work. And you literally want to pick the thing up. And I will admit, I have wanted to say, actually, I have talked to it and said, I'm going to put you under the truck. Okay. And I'm going to roll over you and roll over you. And I mean, it's not going to help me anyway. And then I think in my head, hold on a sec. Why don't you just walk away? Who knows? Maybe it's something. Maybe it's just testing your patience and trying to make you practice it. And yet there are other times that I've learned grace is probably the best thing, especially in a Zoom meeting. I don't know if anybody's been in a Zoom meeting where your headset doesn't work. So you have no mic, nobody can hear you, and you're off mute. And you can't hear them because it doesn't work because there's a system thing that you gotta click this button or whatever. And I think in my head, now I just laugh and I go, yeah, can you hear me? Oh, one sec, and fiddle through it. But again, it's all practice.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
all flowing. Resisting just creates more angst,
Yeah. Yeah.
frustration in you. So flow, let it go. So
I love that we're talking about technology because you have to see my best friend Linda, who's one of our producers. I know you've talked to Linda with her printer. Yeah. I have no idea why in the world never get the printer to work, right? Even when I've hardwired it. I mean, and exactly what you described, I could see her, right? But you see, one of the things that I want to ask you as we have a few minutes left, these things show up for a reason. Yesterday, I am in the middle of testing our new technology, and I am literally testing it. And I've tested it before and things worked, and I'm testing it again and things are not working. And Linda says to me, why aren't you going to play table tennis? Why aren't you going to play ping pong? I said, I can't. I just get in the car and go, just get in the car and go. And it's 6:15. You'll get there by 6:30. Oh, it's too late. It's not too late. They're open till, so I get dressed, put my little shoes on, get in the car and go. And I get in the car and go, and I get to the place, which is the Korean church here in Bothell, and they've got an event. So I'm not going to play. And I laughed. Why? I just needed to, what did you say, Lois? Step away. Step away. Tell people in the last minutes we have, when we step away, we are really feeling that God doesn't give us things that we can't handle. We're feeling that, but sometimes we need to take a different action.
I have a saying with some people who go, I need to do this right now. And my first instinct is, no, what you need to do is pause and stop. I used to, love my daughter, and she probably attest to this. It would be like, yeah, the reason we need to breathe is because our oxygen is not in the head anymore, and it doesn't know what it's thinking, and it's trying too hard. So breathe, step back. When something frustrates you, the last thing you want to do is actually break it or anything. And normally when you've taken the step back, it allows you to have a better focus. I like football, and I find that every time they get into the red zone, people go, they're like 10 yards out and they still can't get the thing out. And it's like, and then they lose yardage and they end up at the 15-yard line. And I'm going, look, better view. You've widened the stance, you get a better shot. And you can say, oh, it was there all the time. I just didn't see it. I wasn't aware of it. And I find sometimes that's what God wants us to do. Just become aware of it and become aware of your own power.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of it.
I love the football metaphor because that's exactly what I was watching the other day. And, you know, we see it, you know, hear the announcers, they call it a setback. It's not a setback, it's a setup. It's not a setback, it's a setup. That's what God does, right? If we can hold on to that, these things that we think is a setback, it's not, it's a setup. Why? Because I love your quote, it enlarges the vision. We get to step back and see a bigger playing field. And it's one that we wouldn't have looked at. I was joking on the last show. I got turned down from a loan. Why? I wasn't asking for enough money. And the guy wasn't going to tell me. They just say you didn't get the loan. And I said, I started to cry. Like, he says, I'm going to tell you a secret. You need to ask for more money. And I thought, oh my gosh, isn't this what God, right? Setback. Broaden the field. Lois, thank you. I want to ask you one last question. Please leave us with one last personal message. And how do we work with you? That's most important.
You can work with me either in groups. If you have, you know, say an organization, you can work one-on-one. I do them in person. I also do through Zoom. Reaching me, probably the best way, again, is through my website, Time to Soar, coaching.ca. And you can schedule a discovery session. You can also learn more about me because I know that I'm probably new to most of your listeners. I really want to thank you, Dr. Pat, for this honor and privilege, and to all the listeners who took time out in their day to join us with this discussion.
And what's your website? One last time.
timetosoarcoaching.ca.
And for those of you out there, it is time to soar. It's time. You know, I sent a personal message out in a video not too long ago to reach back out to people that had been on the network. Why? I don't know, Lois, intuitively, there was something that I was feeling that we had to do more of here. We have to sometimes do more for others to soar.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Please make sure if you've missed any part of this, go back, and we are setting you up to make sure you take those setbacks and you change your perspective and take a wider view at what the universe, spirit, God has in store for you. We'll see you next time.
You have been listening to Your Time to Soar, the Wisdom from Pearls. Tune in every second Tuesday of the month at 11:30 a.m. Pacific with Lois Leonard and Dr. Pat for more pearls that will help your dreams come to life. If life seems complicated, use the pearls for support. These gems are for you to enjoy and learn something new. Life is an experiment. Be curious and use the pearls daily and see the change in your life. Schedule a discovery session with Lois to discuss further by visiting timetosoarcoaching.ca.